My guy, Austin Ward. Hey, Ward Sports. What's your question of the day this past weekend? Not the one currently, because we already talked about that coming out of the scrimmage.
Friday, talked a little tight ends. Don't have to twist my arm, but I was asked at Letterman Row what kind of statistical production would be reasonable to expect from Max Klare.
1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns.
Probably going to be out of reach.
Okay.
And
would it be out of reach if Ohio State didn't have the depth at wide receiver? And he was like target number one.
I think it would still be difficult to get to that point. And it's hard to actually figure out what he's going to accomplish for a number of reasons.
I think it's hard to figure out numbers at all when you're talking about a brand new quarterback and the amount of weapons that this team has. And we asked Devere Posey last week. I had him on Thursday, I believe. Thursday or Friday, I can't remember which day. They all kind of run together, but we had Devere on, and it was Murph and me talking to him. And we were asking him about like Jeremiah Smith and where he can improve on. And he was like, well, it's not going to be a numbers thing. He goes, it's about, little things for him and improving and getting ready for the college game. And he was kind of going on, and it was a really good answer. But when you start thinking about breaking in a new quarterback, Austin, but the amount of weapons that they have and then what their ceiling could be, what their floor could be, there's just so many weapons. There's only one football to go around, which I think in Max Klare's case makes it extremely difficult to be able to pinpoint exactly kind of what that range would be for him.
Yeah, and it's not as simple as saying Max Klare did this at Purdue when the talent level is in a completely different realm of college football.
Yeah.
Now, he's their primary weapon. And you say, well, okay, if he was capable of doing that and probably getting a lot more attention from opponents, and he had 51 catches, 600 some on yards, 4 touchdowns, we don't have to focus on the touchdowns. Purdue doesn't score very many points.
It's Purdue.
But, 51 catches and 600 yards, and I'm trying to put that in context because part of the question that I didn't include there was, all right, well, where would that rank amongst all-time Ohio State tight end production, single-season records? And so I'm looking at
pretty up there.
It would be his 51 catches would be the second highest total in school history for an Ohio State tight end.
Ooh.
Wrap your mind around that. The yardage that he put up last year for Purdue would be the highest total an Ohio State tight end has ever had. So it is possible for Max Klare to show up, simply match what he did at Purdue, and leave with the most decorated tight end year in Ohio State history. Now, where it gets more complicated is not just, well, here's the old conversation. It's the year of the tight end. Jeremy Ruckert's going to do this, or Marcus Baugh is going to do that, or Jeff Hireman is going to do this, or Nick Vanette is going to do that. They can change.
Stover's going to do this.
Whoever. They can change the conversation. They can elevate the production of that position. Yeah, they can, but they also exist on a team that has multiple NFL first-round draft picks, future NFL draft picks at wide receiver. They have 2 or 3 running backs that they need to get the football to, who will also be involved in the passing game. Even at tight end, Will Kazmarek and Jelani Thurman and Bennett Christian are all going to play for this team. Mm-hmm. So the touches have to come from somewhere. And there is only one football. I looked at, because this came up with earlier last week, and we didn't talk about it on the show. It was like, how many catches is reasonable for Mylan Graham, who I am the chief engineer of the hype train for Mylan Graham.
Have been since spring.
Really excited to watch him every time I get a chance to in practice. I can't wait to see him in games. And I was asked to evaluate an over-under of 35 catches for Mylan Graham.
Under.
And I said, well, that's way under, bud.
Yeah, that's an under.
And I explained it, and I was talking about it, afterwards. Like, Brandon Inniss finished 4th amongst wide receivers at Ohio State last year. He had 14 catches. Mm-hmm. As great as I think Mylan Graham can be for Ohio State, he's not going to be a top 3 wide receiver. Brandon Inniss, Carnell Tate, and Jeremiah Smith are on this team. Max Klare has to contend with that as well. Not just those top 3 weapons, but also Bryson Rodgers and Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter, all being factored into this conversation as well. So,
and to your point, running backs out of the backfield, which we know that Quinshon and Travion both excelled at last year. Travion maybe a little bit more, but still, they were giving the ball to running backs in space in the pass game.
So it makes it really challenging. because I think you hear it a lot. One of the cliches, whether that's coaches or fans, what's the best tight end? What's the best friend that a new quarterback can have? Oh, the tight end's always open. You got that security blanket over the middle of the field.
Safety valve.
I think Jeremiah Smith is the best friend that a new quarterback could ever have. I think that's probably going to be a better safety valve.
It's a tough argument, Austin. I would probably 51-49 agree with you.
Yeah, I'm out on a limb for sure, and it feels pretty stable out here. I'm not worried about falling.
Stiff breeze going to knock you off your perch?
Nah, I feel pretty good. But so the point, if this team plays 16 times, can Max Klare catch 3 balls a game? Yeah. I don't think that's asking too much. 48 catches. And we would be like, holy cow, this tight end usage. 48 catches for Max Klare. That's the 3rd best tight end season in Ohio State history.
Yeah.
This is incredible. And then you say, well, that's less than Purdue last year and fewer games. This is not the same offense. It's not the same situation. I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Ohio State to use him as a pure wide receiver. Jake Butt was talking on Thursday after the BTN tour and I asked him about it specifically. It's like, what do you see for Max Klare here? What's so different about him? He's a wide receiver in a tight end's body. He's like Colston Loveland. And whether you like or dislike that comparison, doesn't matter. That's the level of usage that could exist for Max Klare at Ohio State. But we've had that conversation before.
It's a top 12 pick in the NFL draft.
It's pretty good, pretty lofty. Is Max Klare going to come close to those numbers? I think he's capable of doing that. I'm just skeptical that it's in reality.
In this offense, is he capable of it?
If you want him to be, but that's the
arsenal of weapons that you have.
Kevin Wilson used to describe it to me this way when he was coaching tight ends, and he's
very familiar with that position.
The position and also calling plays as a head coach and an offensive coordinator. And I would talk about, because I love tight end play. I firmly believe you've got to have multiple good tight ends to succeed.
And Keenan Bailey has done that at an excellent rate here.
He's developing and recruiting at a high level. And you can ask.
Mention Nate.
Cade Stover. Yeah, 100%. But you look at this and Kevin Wilson would say, well, what we would do, you look at the weapons on your team and you just rank them. Who needs this touches? You're going 1 through 6 and say, well, where do you think Jeremy Ruckert falls on this list? If you also have Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson or KJ Hill or Austin Mack or whoever else, not to mention your running backs. So they're probably not going to be any higher than 4th.
Off of the jump.
And it's hard once you get into 4, 5, 6 range, then it becomes a matter of, okay, you've taken care of the top 3. What's our actual game plan for this week? What are we trying to attack? How are they going to defend the tight ends versus what we want to do with screen game or throwing out of the backfield or anything else?
That's what I'm interested in. Maybe less of an entire season numbers for Max Klare, but I do feel like you could get yourself into a game where it is an excellent matchup for the tight end, and you could see a game where he's got 8 catches for 130 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. But when you start playing the entire numbers game, and you were talking about what you just said there and ranking your weapons, and JJ needs X amount of targets, and Carnell Tate needs X amount of targets, and Brandon Inniss and the running backs. But given the matchup or opponent or situation, if you've got Max Klare running free all day, like you've got some gurus on the offensive side of the football, be like, hey, I know that we talked about targeting these guys and we're still game planning to get them open, but if he's open, like, throw it to him.
That would work.
Yeah.
And we've seen plenty of games that highlight Ohio State will use the tight ends when those matchups are in their favor.
Well, they use the tight ends all the time, but it's more so with a lot of different things that they're doing on offense, and not specifically for what they do. Yes, with the football in their hands on the receiving ends.
For sure. But I mean, even in terms of expanding the passing attack arsenal, that Clemson Sugar Bowl, it was a takeover by Jeremy Ruckert and Luke Farrell. Yeah. Like, I believe the first 3 touchdowns were all by tight ends. It's like, well, this game's over. Clemson can't handle that. It's like they don't have to do it over the length of the season, which is your point. When the matchups come along and somebody decides that they're going to try and stop Max Klare with a linebacker, sorry.
Good luck.
That game's over. That's not going to work. And I think that's what's really fascinating about the pieces that have been assembled for this team. Whenever you finally make that decision at quarterback, whoever it is going to be gifted the best opportunity that any first-time starting quarterback could ever ask for. Because
I don't think that's hyperbole either.
I don't think it is. You look, teams are going to have to double cover JJ every week.
Because if you don't, Austin, you are dead from Jump Street.
And most teams would be evaluating the personnel and be like, you know what? This Carnell Tate guy, he's the best weapon.
We need a shade
most
to
teams.
him.
So I don't know. We need both of these safeties over here, one on Carnell and one on Jeremiah. Well,
have fun, man.
Here's your problem. Brandon Inniss and Max Klare are suddenly in the middle of the field against a safety or a linebacker.
And you know what? If you're so worried about the pass game, then boom, all of a sudden 36 right up the right-hand side. They're going to gash you for 26 yards on an outside right run.
That's what more could you ask for?
You couldn't. You just illustrated it perfectly. You can't. You cannot. This is the best opportunity and situation that any potential starting quarterback is walking into. Yeah, I have zero disagreement with that.
Who would you rather be? Julian Sayin or Lincoln Kienholz or Arch Manning? Going into this year, now Texas has to replace 4 starters on the offensive line. They've been aggressive in the portal to try and replace with some weapons, add weapons. I know Ryan Wingo is going to be very good.
Yeah, they're going to be good.
Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz have maybe the deepest Ohio State offensive line in a decade. They have Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Inniss, Max Klare. That's just the top 4.
In a running backs room where your coach said last week that nobody's earned a job yet because everybody's trying to earn a job.
Well, because the Lock boys could play 6.
Yeah, that's what he said.
You didn't hear him
and
say
I believe
that.
him. I
He
believe
would.
him.
He's not afraid to.
No, he's not. Let's get all 6 of them out.
There's no
on the field.
lukewarm coaching going on.
# Buckeyes next. It's the Buckeye Show on The Fan.